Take control of your life. Break the chains and rise. No more feeling powerless. No more shame. Take your power. Break out of the pain. Because it's more than fornication. More than procreation. It's not just self-stimulation. Sex energy is for creation and transformation and to a new destination. Porn Talk. Yeah. Change your heart from dark to light. Porn Talk. Yeah. Break free. Take back your power and rise. I said take back your power. I said take back your power. Take back your power and rise.
This is Porn Talk.
Welcome to Porn Talk. This is Powerful Eric. This show is not just about breaking addictions, it's about breaking belief systems. We are bound by self-imposed and societal chains. Break those rusty, nasty old chains right now. And boy, do I have a guest for you today. In this compelling episode, we have John Giordano, a true champion in the realm of addiction recovery and martial arts. I would call him the Rocky Balboa of martial arts and addiction recovery. John's journey is nothing short of inspirational. From his challenging childhood in the South Bronx to overcoming personal battles with addiction, John has transformed his life and the lives of countless others through his holistic approach to treatment. And Mr. Giordano has appeared on countless notable TV shows like the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric. He's been on Fox. He's been on NBC with Tom Brokaw. He's been on CNN with Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room. What? He is a true inspiration. Geraldo, A&E, the list goes on. And John is the founder of the National Institute for Holistic Addiction Studies and the author of multiple acclaimed books, including The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up and How to Beat Your Addictions and Live a Quality Life. His story of turning $300 into a $45 million empire is a testament to his relentless spirit and dedication to helping others. In this episode, John shares his roadmap for positive change, emphasizing the importance of never giving up on your dreams and passions. Join us as we delve into John's incredible life story and his groundbreaking work in addiction recovery. Welcome, John.
Thank you very much. I love doing these podcasts because, I want to encourage people to realize that they can do anything, okay, in life, no matter what kind of family they come from, no matter what kind of trials and tribulations that they come through in their life journey. So what I like to do usually is give you a little background of myself so you can understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah, please do.
This is life is not just about money and success and all of that. It's about becoming a better human being. It's about helping other people that are less fortunate than you. And it's most of all, it's about helping yourself because you can't help anyone unless you help yourself. So let me just start with my family was a mafia type family. My uncle was a hitman. My grandfather was a Shylock. Those are people that loan you money, and if you don't pay, you'll pay one way or the other. My father was a heroin dealer. And my other family members were nefarious types that did, different things. Well, all I could say is my father, when I was 8, went to jail. He got caught selling heroin, and he went to jail for 4 years. My uncle, who was the hitman, threw my wedding when I was 20, and the caterer insulted him in front of the family, so he killed him the next morning.
Wow.
So we had to leave town. But my family, okay, was a real loving family, but just don't mess with them. I just tell you the way it is. Okay. So, growing up in that, I got molested when I was 8.5 by some boys in the neighborhood, and it was very confusing for me because there was part of me that liked it, even though I was full of shame and guilt, and I didn't want my family to find out. Otherwise, I would have killed myself. This is what I was thinking at 8 years old.
Mhm.
At 8.5, at 9, I got molested by my babysitter. She was 14, and there was another trauma in my life. I was scared. I didn't know what to think about it. It felt good, but it felt not correct.
Mhm.
And then I wound up being in gangs when I was a kid, all kinds of different gangs with different cultures, black gangs, Hispanic, Irish, Italian. And, I was kind of lost kid. My father was in jail. I had to protect my mom. And, I also got left back in the 6th grade because I was a class clown and I wasn't paying attention to school. So going up, and then I became a traumatologist later on in recovery and things like that. And I work with people that have trauma.
Mhm.
And I work with sex addicts. I work with drug and alcohol addicts. I also work with people, PTSD. I work with police officers that have been in shootings. I'm also a chaplain for the North Miami Police Department. I work with guys coming back from Iraq, Afghanistan, women that have been molested, raped. My life has taken a complete 360 turn. I said I would never be like my family, and eventually I became that. When I was 14 and a half, I got into karate, and karate really helped me get out of the gangs and took all that anger, all that energy, and put it in a different direction. And for a while, for at least, I don't know, till I was about 20, and then when my uncle killed a caterer and all that kind of stuff, I started getting into drugs, and I started doing all of that. And eventually I became a drug dealer. And eventually I used to do collection work for the smugglers. And I used to teach one of the cartels, all their bodyguards, martial arts. I did a lot of nefarious things. Also never got arrested. I don't know how that happened. God was watching over me.
That is
I
right.
also stopped believing in God. And, as far as I was concerned, how could there be a God? Look what he does to all these people. Like God was in charge of killing everybody. I don't know. But anyway, I got out of hand and my family did an intervention on me. That means they all got together, my family and some of my friends, and they said I needed to go to treatment. I'm wondering who's doing an intervention on them because I thought they needed to go to treatment. Okay. But that's how life shows up, and I wound up going in treatment. And I don't want to give you the whole story because I want to get to the addictions part and the mental health part. But anyway, I wound up having a spiritual awakening in treatment, and what that means, I'll give you a little brief scenario of that. It was around the 3rd week in treatment. I went into treatment in December 4th, and I wanted to go home for Christmas Eve. I didn't want my children to see me in the hospital, and I really wanted to go home because my friends would come over with Christmas cards with cocaine in it. So it had nothing to do with my children. Us addicts, we're all about self-centeredness and selfishness. It's all about us, not about them or anybody else, matter of fact. Even though we make like we are, but we aren't. And they said no, and so I got really pissed off. So I didn't just get angry, I got rageful. And when I got rageful, it didn't go away right away. Sometimes it took even days. But what happened is I went into my room, I punched the door, and I started throwing stuff around and really angry. And then I remember my therapist telling me, John, you ever get on your knees and pray to God? I said, give me a break. I'm a recovering Catholic. I got calluses on my knees. Okay. So
Me too, by the way. Me too.
yeah, right. I call myself a recovering Catholic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what happened was I said, you know what? I was in so much pain and so much confusion. I started to clear up after 3 weeks from the drugs and all the shame and all the guilt and all the remorse and all this stuff started coming to the surface, and I didn't know how to deal with all these emotions. So I tried to get my knee down, and I couldn't. I know that may sound strange to somebody, but it felt strange to me too. And finally, I pushed my knee down. I had to push my other knee down. And I said, look, I don't know what's out there, God, energy, I don't know. Please, I'll do whatever you want. Just take this away from me. I cannot deal with this pain and anger and suffering. And my anger went away like it never was there. And I said, no, this can't be possible. So I tried to bring it back, and I couldn't bring it back. And that was my spiritual awakening. And from then on in, it goes on in the story. If you get the book, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up, you'll see the whole story. Fast forward, I got out of treatment, did all of that stuff, wanted to help other people get recovery, and I wound up going back to school because I only went to the 9th grade. So if those of you are watching and you don't have an education, look, I couldn't spell very well. Well, I got spell check now, so everything's cool. All right. My grammar wasn't the greatest. Oh, but they got grammar check. So now we're in, man. Don't worry about it. Computers are it. Okay. Join the AI revolution.
Yeah. If I may interrupt, so John, when you were younger, you went into the 9th grade?
9th grade.
Yeah. And now you have a PhD, right?
Yeah. What happened is I got a lot of things. I have a certified addiction professional. I got a master's in addiction counseling. I got a master's in neuro-linguistic program. I'm a hypnotherapist, holotropic breathing. I have it's an honorary, a doctorate degree that they gave me. Matter of fact, they wanted me to go to Israel. The mayor of Jerusalem was going to give me the diploma and all the hoopla and stuff, and I didn't want to go to Israel at the time. I said, look, I come from a bad neighborhood. I don't want to go to another bad neighborhood. And everybody was telling me, no, it's safe. I said, okay, you go, and I don't want to go. So they did it at a shul, and it was myself and the mayor of North Miami. We received honorary doctorate degrees.
Yeah. And if I may, and this is just what he's mentioning here is just the tip of the iceberg. Like if you read his book, like he's got so many different credentials and so many different things, not to mention all the grandmaster martial arts stuff. I mean, it really is extraordinary. Like when I read this book, the Kid from the South Bronx Who Would Never Give Up, I was blown away. Like how many things can one person do in a lifetime? And by the way, I didn't mention, John is 78 years young.
August 27, I'll be 78.
Okay, in August you'll be 78. And if you're on video, you look at this man. Like I would have thought maybe he's in his 60s.
I'm wearing a mask. Don't look at me.
But like I'm just so blown away by you, and like some of the stories that John is mentioning. Like there are so many incredible stories. And I'm sorry I interrupt. So
no, not at all.
So tell us, when we first met, the first words out of my mouth were, and I knew nothing about John at the time, I said, you got this Rocky Balboa vibe to you. And then he goes on to say that basically he's been doing martial arts for pretty much his entire life. And I'm talking like serious, very serious level. And so I really, like I said in the intro, I consider you the Rocky Balboa of martial arts and addiction recovery.
The martial arts really helped me tremendously. I'm in a black belt. I'm in a couple of black belt Hall of Fames, and I don't know how many times. I say 5-time national karate champion. It was way more than that, but I don't want to sound ridiculous, so I just say 5 times. Who cares? I've trained hundreds of thousands of people, actually. I have hundreds of black belts that are national world karate champions. I even used to teach the blind and the handicapped.
Yes.
And my blind black belt became a national karate champion in forms. And I also met, I'll tell you a quick little story. His name was David Janechil. He had retinitis pigmentosa. He could see like maybe shadows, but he really couldn't see at all. And in order for me to teach him, I had to blindfold myself. So my reference points were his reference points. Because as being sighted, your reference points are totally different than a blind person. And David would come in and he said he wanted to study karate. right? And he's bumping into walls. And I thought this guy was stoned. They said, listen, I said, you can't do drugs here. He said, I'm not stoned. I'm blind. I said, well, where's your cane? I don't want a cane. I said, okay. So he says, yeah, I want to become a black belt. So I laughed at him. I said, yeah, okay. You want to become a black belt? Okay. Yeah, sign this paper. In case you die, I'm not responsible. Right? So anyway, David, if you just touched him, he would fall on the floor and he would start screaming in pain. Okay. And I used to kick him when he was on the floor. I know that sounds terrible, but my teacher was a Marine DI. That means a drill instructor, and a very rough teacher. I could go into a whole thing with that. But anyway, that's how I taught. They'd probably get arrested if I taught that way today. But anyway, and I used to just keep banging him around until eventually he stopped doing that. And he was focused on me becoming a black belt. And what happened I think it was a green belt, I put him in a tournament to fight. And he said, I can't see the opponent. I said, don't worry, he's in front of you. So the people that were running the tournament said, you can't put him in, he's blind. I says, that's discrimination. I says, you can't do it. I just don't let anybody know he's blind. All right. So what I did was I walked him into the ring shoulder to shoulder without any cane. He got him there. He fought this guy. This guy was huge. David was a skinny little guy. All right. Probably 140 pounds, soaking wet. Anyway, he beat the guy. And then I walked out with his cane and he tapped off the mat. The guy sat down and cried, the one that lost.
Oh my gosh.
And the next guy, he almost beat him too. So Dave, nobody in the dojo wanted to fight him because he couldn't see you. And you run into his kicks and punches, you wind up getting damaged.
Wow.
So then he became a national champion and he became a ninth degree black belt eventually after 40-something years.
Anything is possible. Wow.
Oh, let me tell you, guys out there, listen, it's all in your mindset. I know it's easy to say, okay, and hard to do. But what the bottom line is in life? If it's too easy, we take it for granted. Okay? And if it's too difficult, we run away. If it doesn't happen right away, we run away. Well, look, don't leave before the miracle happens. I mean, if you would ever tell me where I would be today compared to where I was in the beginning of this journey, I would probably punch you in the face, thinking you're making fun of me. Here's a kid from the South Bronx, gang, family, all of this stuff and not educated. I was so insecure, you would never know it, of course. You ever see those commercials with the mask and they take the mask off and they're depressed, That was me. Even when I won tournaments, I would say, the competition wasn't that good. The judges liked me. I would never take credit for my accomplishments. I would always put myself down. I should be doing better, and on and on and on. But see, that self-talk, you have to change. And that dialogue runs. And that runs from when I was a little kid. I was a fat little kid. Well, not really fat little kid, but, to me, they used to call me Fat John. And, and I was afraid of kids. And I was, what happened one day, I was watching a movie, a television show, in those little square boxes with the magnifying glass. I'm 77 to be 78, so it's like old time, right?
Right.
And I saw the Keystone Cops. Now, the Keystone Cops, they used to move really quick and, beat the people up with the nightsticks and all this kind of stuff. And I said, I wonder if I move really quick, if I can beat these guys that are picking on me. So I used to have a neighbor that used to always pick on me. So I came out of my house one day and he came out of his and he started to push me around. And I just started swinging crazy and fighting like crazy, not even know what the heck I was doing. And I beat him. I beat up every kid in the neighborhood that ever picked on me. And that's what I wind up doing. And I wind up having a kind of like an eating disorder because, I didn't want to be Fat John anymore. And my mother had to take me to the doctor. I was anemic. And my mother started really, how can that be possible? It's an Italian mother. They feed you everything, And that's what happened. So I went through a lot of things. And going to your show, which is a porn, I was never addicted to porn. Okay, but sex addiction, yeah. You know, because I know, because I treat a lot of people with sexual addictions. When people get molested, for some reason, we all look at things differently, and very difficult addiction. Just like all the addictions are difficult, and it's called RDS. Dr. Blum, who I work with, he's the geneticist who found the main addiction gene. It was called the DRD2-ILE1 variant gene. There was other genes involved, but that's the main driver. It's a lack of dopamine and serotonin. Those are the feel-good drugs that we manufacture naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is when that runs low, we look to build that back up. And what happens is that if you're not doing drugs, you're doing sex. If you're not doing sex, you're doing shopping. If you're not doing shopping, you're doing gambling. If you're not doing gambling, you're doing porn. If you're not doing porn, you know, you're playing video games till you fall asleep on the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
You become out of touch with reality. And then you go through all the emotional roller coaster ride of, you know, the guilt of not being with your family, of lying, of manipulating, then feeling bad about it. You go through this whole cycle of addiction behavior, and it's a difficult thing to deal with. And you just go, you go to meetings, have a sponsor, go to therapy, talk about it. Communication's key. And and if you fall down, you get back up and just keep going again. Okay, but you have to recognize it as something that's detrimental. Look, is porn addiction bad or good? It all depends. Okay, if it's an addiction, but what is addiction? Okay, we keep throwing these terms around, but what is addiction? Addiction is when you continue to use a substance or a behavior. I make it simple.
Mm-hmm.
In spite of adverse consequences.
Right.
Okay, so if you have all these adverse consequences and you continue to do this, then maybe you have a problem.
Yeah.
And maybe you need to do your best how to take care of that. But if you don't, okay, and it's not interfering with your life, and it's not interfering with your family, and it's not interfering with your spiritual nature, okay, and anything like that, go for it.
Yeah.
But usually that's not the case.
Yeah. I love your definition, because with that definition, like anger, rage, somebody could be addicted to being rageful, because I know in your book you talk a lot about, wanting to punch people in the face and kill people. And of course you didn't kill anybody. But I don't know if you can see it on your end there, but the mascot for the show is he's a little penis man.
Oh, that's what that is. I couldn't figure out what that was.
Yeah, it's a little penis man, and he's holding a smartphone. He's holding a smartphone, and we had a contest to name him, and his name is Raging Richard. And the joke is, don't be like Raging Richard. Don't be a dick. And so if you could speak to the rage aspect and how martial arts helped you in that regard. And
well, what I tell people is, don't listen to the little head, listen to the big head. And women also have porn addiction. But why is it? It's not even necessarily porn addiction. Look, you can utilize porn to enhance your relationships. Okay, as long as you do it together and it's okay with each other, that's fine. But if you're sneaking around, okay, and not telling your mate what you're doing and what's going on, maybe something you have to take a look at. Something's wrong with that. Most relationships, you have to, years of relationship. Look, let's just get honest with each other. Is that if you don't continuously feed that relationship with love, with understanding, with communication, and not hiding things that are inside of your head. It's like most guys always looking at girls, even if they're with a girl or with their wife. All right. And then, wife gets upset and all this kind of stuff. They all do that. We all do that. I don't care what you say. Okay. So the bottom line is that why do guys do that? Because that's what guys do. Okay, I'm not saying all. I never say all of anything, but people do that. But it's not like my wife is beautiful inside and out. It's not just about the outside. I had a lot of outside beauties, but they had nothing inside because I had nothing inside. You attract what you are, and the more you improve upon yourself, the more you attract people into your life that are like-minded. And it all has to do with us. It has nothing to do with anybody else. Us addicts, we blame everybody, people, places, and things. Okay. We have to take responsibility for our own actions. Okay. If you're hurting yourself or you're hurting somebody else, okay, then maybe you should not do that. And the bottom line is that if you keep open communication with the person you're with, and you love them, like I love my wife more than anything in the world, and we're together going on 29 years. Now, I've been married 4 times. My father told me, keep doing it till you get it right. Okay. So to me, my wife is the most special woman I've ever met in my entire life. And, there's a lot of reasons I say that because, look, talking the talk is one thing. Walking the walk is a whole other ballgame. When I met my wife, I give you a quick little story. She was actually in my first treatment center. I didn't even know because I didn't even know she was in there. So I never paid attention to the women. And anyway, over the years, we used to run each other when I was lecturing or teaching class or something. And so far what happened was my son, she was an intern, and she came into my group. She was chewing gum. And I said, get the gum out of your mouth and sit down. And she sat down. And my son said to me afterwards, because I had my son with me because he got thrown out of class because he was acting out. And I had to take him to work with me. And he said, that girl likes you. I said, oh, okay. So when she got into the office, I handed her my card. And I said, listen, if you want to be an intern, you can come to my center and you can work with me. So 2 weeks later, I get a call. I said, oh, yeah, I remember you. I said, you want to be an intern? When would you like to start? She said, no, I want to go out with you. So I said, you want to go out with me? I said, okay, yeah, for sure. Okay. Long story short, we went out and we're together about 3 months. And I was building my new treatment center and I needed money. And she had a brand new car. And the kids were wrecking the car. She had 2 kids. And I said, why don't you sell your car and give me the money? And one day I'll buy your car 10 times better. So she sold her car.
And I know keep going. I know what kind of car from the book that you ended up buying.
Right. So she sold the car, gave me $20,000. And about, 7, 8 years later, I bought her a Bentley. Now, all I can tell you, what woman do you know does that? Her family was against her. What are you doing? You're crazy. You know this guy for 3 months. She says, I believe in him, and that hasn't changed. And she's always by my side. She's a recovering addict also. She has mental health issues also. But we work together on it, and I have my issues. Mm-hmm. And she helps me and I help her. That's what relationships about. We don't hold resentments with each other. And probably the reason why it worked is not even probably is because I had a broken picker. Everybody I picked didn't work out. So she picked me, so it worked out. But, that's that story in relationships anyway.
Yeah. Well, John, for this part of the podcast, we are going to draw to a close here, and we are going to have John back on the next episode. And we would like to pick his brain about all the alternative recovery methods that he uses. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about how he turned that $300 to 45 million. And John, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Are you struggling with porn or sex addiction? Then apply for a free strategy call with Eric today at powerfuleric.com.
Part 2.
This is Porn Talk Live. Here is your host, Eric Zuzak.
Welcome back to Porn Talk. This is Powerful Eric. This show's not just about breaking addictions, it's about breaking belief systems. And we have an incredible belief breaker here back today. He was just on our last episode. He is back. He's John Giordano. He's the founder of the National Institute for Holistic Addiction Studies. This man is an extraordinary individual. He's the author of The Kid from the South Bronx Who Would Never Give Up. Welcome back, John Giordano. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Eric.
So John, let's
yeah,
pick up where we left off. If you could get into the thing that was really challenging for me is I really wanted to improve. I really wanted to get better. And I went just the traditional route. You know, they put you on antidepressants, you go to a traditional therapist, and it did not work for me. Like it did not, I actually got worse. And so I had to go out on my own. And especially like with sex and porn addiction, like you think drugs and alcohol, I mean, that's a little more out there. This has such a stigma about it. And so I had to kind of go out on my own and find things that worked. And I did, thank God I did. And I share them with the world. So maybe you could share with us one, maybe before you get into it, maybe a story, maybe about James Brown or whatever. And then if you could get into some of your alternative recovery modalities that you use.
Well, wherever you want me to start, I can start. You know, what the problem with all these addictions is the shame and the guilt that's attached to it. And, you know, everybody has something. I don't care who you are, you know, where you come from. We all have some kind of abnormality that we're dealing with. Okay. And, there's a saying in the program, stinking thinking. Okay. Well, you know, the thoughts control a lot of the chemicals in your body. People don't realize that either. Okay. Because it's not easy to control this team of wild horses here in your head. All right. They look for a quick fix, a pill. Okay. Or just succumb to whatever. Look, recovery is an ongoing battle. Okay. It's not something that you do and you're done. All right. It's a moment to moment, day by day challenge sometimes. Sometimes it's fine for a while. Then boom, that little ugly head rises again. And here you are again. Mm-hmm. Oh, I won't do that anymore. I need to do it again. And you go, oh, why did I do that? What the hell's wrong with me? Then you beat yourself up. Then you go back into it. I mean, it's like a never-ending story. And, you know, it's just a work in progress. But I believe as long as you keep working on it, okay, it doesn't go away, but it diminishes. Okay, where it doesn't control your life. Okay, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but it gets less and less if you're really working on yourself. Mm-hmm. And is it difficult? Absolutely. Okay, are you going to win all the time? Absolutely not. Okay, but if you succumb to it, you're going to lose all the time. And if you're in a relationship and you have, if it's a woman or it's a guy, and you're insecure, okay, then you're going to have a problem. Because insecurity in relationships, oh, you're watching the girls, you're watching that. I'm not good enough. What's going on? You know, don't I please you? You know, it goes on and on and on. It has nothing to do with you or them or them. This is all in the head, okay? It's like mental masturbation. I'll put it to you that way. So, you know, it has nothing to do with the person you're with, okay? It has to do that we're energy seekers. We love, we're excitement junkies, okay? So we need excitement. If we don't have excitement, we're depressed, okay? We don't know what normal is. Addicts don't know what normal is. The only normal I know is a dial on a washing machine. We have no clue about what normal is. If you're just rolling along, oh, that means I'm depressed. If I'm up here, oh man, I'm good. Everything's great. You know, probably manic. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't even realize that either. Mm-hmm. It all depends with. There's a bunch of things involved in mental health and addiction. It's not just psychological. Okay, and that's where we fall short. addiction recovery centers, whether it's for porn addiction or sex addiction or gambling addiction, whatever you want to talk about. Okay. It's basically the same thing. We call it RDS, reward deficiency syndrome. Now, what does that mean? That means you have a deficiency in serotonin and dopamine. You know, and the bottom line is that fluctuates. Okay. And when you're down on dopamine and serotonin, you look to bounce it back up.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, with food, with sex, with risky behaviors, with business, whatever. Okay. But we take it to another level. We don't know how to balance that.
Yeah.
So that takes practice. That takes time. Sometimes you're really good for a while, and sometimes you're not good. You have a dip. Okay. But you got to keep going. All right. Otherwise, you succumb to it, and then you know what happens. You wind up in poo-poo land.
And that's why one of your alternatives, I was impressed that you use it, is amino acids. The book, The Mood Cure, talks about that. Can you speak to that about using amino acids?
Sure. We have 15. Well, here, let me tell you, the audience doesn't know. So for some reason, whatever, I got very fortunate. I got involved with some of the top scientists in the world, actually, not in this country only, but in the world. I'm in 80 medical and scientific peer-reviewed journals. And I told you where I came from. All right. I'm a kid from the South Bronx. All right. But here I am with a bunch of scientists and researchers from all over the world. And I happen to be with some of the top ones in the world. Dr. Blum, as I told you earlier in the other show, he was the one who, him and Dr. Ernie Noble developed that they found that the main addiction gene, which is the DRD2 dopamine addiction gene, that means you don't have enough receptor sites and you don't have enough dopamine, and causes you a cascade of other problems that go on with other genes.
Mm-hmm.
I work with Dr. Deborah Mash. She's a pioneer in ibogaine treatment, which is psychedelics. So I became a pioneer in psychedelics. In 1996, I worked with her. Okay, I did the counseling, doing integration. Ibogaine is a bush from West Africa that was used by the Weedy tribe as a rite of passage. But they found out that this heroin addict, this guy Howard Lutzoff, went to Gabron to go get high from this new drug called ibogaine. Anyway, he did the ibogaine. He woke up the next morning detoxed, and he didn't have any cravings, which was impossible. It usually takes anywhere from 7 to 9 days to stabilize, not even detox. Okay, so he wound up opening up in Panama, and he got a hold of Dr. Mash somehow. But you know, addicts, just because they stop drugs and alcohol, their behaviors need time to redevelop. So she left him and opened up in St. Kitts in 1996 or 1995. I wound up being with her. I was doing the counseling with other therapists, and we were doing integration therapy with them. Meaning, you know, when you do psychedelics, you don't have to have an intent. You have to have a plan. Where do you want to go? You know, and then when you come out, I help you to understand what you saw in your journey, how it matches what you have in life, and on and on and on. So that's another person. Then I'm one of my other mentors is Dr. Paul Harch. Dr. Harch is a pioneer in hyperbaric medicine. That's oxygen under pressure. He went to the Senate with Dr. What the heck was his name? Anyway, he went to the Senate and he got them to approve wound healing for diabetics for the VA because they were cutting off arms and legs, and it actually heals wounds. But it also heals TBI cases, traumatic brain injury cases. And drugs and alcohol damage your brain. So it also heals parts of your brain that are damaged. So those are some of the people I work with.
And you also worked with the vitamin C guys that Dr. Linus.
Yeah, Linus, one of the direct doctors that work directly under Linus Pauling. He's the vitamin C guy that found vitamin C, how great it was. And matter of fact, Dr. Schoenthaler from Stanislaus University, I worked with. He was on my faculty. He's the one that did the research project on 500 adolescents with nutrients and changing their diet. And in the treatment center, these were really kids that were really lost and bad kids. Not bad kids, but kids were not good kids. Put it that way. Okay. Anyway, it showed that their behaviors changed, and they weren't so nasty and angry.
Yeah.
So nutrients really make a difference. I now own another treatment center called JC's Recovery Center in Hollywood. It's a faith-based program, non-denominal, and what I've done is we put together an executive program. And these are the things that really help with porn addiction, any addiction, doesn't matter. Okay, what we want to do is you want to diminish inflammation in the body. Okay, you want to raise dopamine and serotonin. Most people don't realize where depression and anxiety comes from. It's not just psychological. Okay, it's your gut, your second brain, your microbiota, your microbiome, the flora in your gut, whatever you want to call it. Okay, when your bacteria in your gut is out of balance, your brain is out of balance. Because you have more neurons in your gut than you have in your brain. Go look it up, guys. I always tell people, please don't believe a word I tell you. Go look up this stuff, okay?
What you say is true, I know.
80 to 90% of dopamine and serotonin is manufactured in your gut. It goes up the vagus nerve, okay? You'll learn about what the vagus nerve is all about, okay? And it deposits into your brain. Now, if you have the DRD2 addiction gene, okay, well, you have a deficiency to begin with. Now, just because you have that gene doesn't mean you're going to become an addict, okay? Because there's such a thing as epigenetics. Epigenetics means the social environment can actually change the gene expression, okay? So, but when you add all these things together, then deficiencies, vitamin and nutrient deficiencies, what we do at the center, we do micronutrient testing, okay, to see where you're deficient in your body with nutrients. Nutrients in your body deficiency can cause mental health issues. Then you have gut issues, leaky gut syndrome. Look this stuff up, guys. H. pylori infection, hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, low thyroid, low testosterone or high testosterone. All of these things are precursors for depression and anxiety. Not just psychological now, okay? Heavy metal toxicity. Heavy metals cause neurotransmission disruption in your brain, all right? How do I know all this stuff? I learned it from all the people I work with. Like I said, I'm in 80 medical journals, scientific peer-reviewed journals. I'm on a team of researchers from around 12 universities. God put me in some crazy places. And, being an inner city kid, you learn how to maneuver in the upper echelon of wherever you go. Addicts, especially addicts, we can, no matter where you put us, we can wind up. If you put an addict in the jungle and find drugs.
Well, John, maybe this is a good segue into some of your stories. Like when John wants to do something, he finds a way to do it, some extraordinary ways, from dropping thousands of dollars out of hot air balloons to getting James Brown involved with his projects. Could you maybe tell one or a couple of those stories?
Okay, yeah. Now, this is before recovery, guys. I was using drugs at the time, okay? I worked for a company called Flea Market USA. It was in Liberty City in Overtown in Miami, and that's where the riots were in 1980, 81.
And Liberty City is a rough part.
Yeah, really rough time. It's the African American community, and after the riots, nobody would go in that community, especially with shop. Okay, so one of my students, karate students, was one of the owners of the flea market. Wanted to sell me a booth. I said, no, I don't want a booth. I said, I want to work for you. He said, sensei, that means teacher. He said, look, you do karate, but this is business. It's something different. I said, no. Anyway, he said, how much do you want? I said, give me $1,000 a week. Now, this is 1981, 80. Okay, he said, what? I says, okay, tell you what. Give me $250 a week. Tell me what you want me to accomplish and bringing people in and doing stuff. And if I accomplish that, I want 1,000 a week. He says, you got it. 3 months later, I got 1,000 a week. So then they wanted to have a grand opening, the biggest grand opening that anybody ever wanted to have. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. All right. We need a theme. So the theme was we're revitalizing Liberty City and Overtown. And what I did was I was dancing in the churches with all the deacons and everybody and all the pastors. And I contacted the SBA people, Small Business Association. We were teaching people how to run a business, how to buy wholesale, how to market their products and stuff like that. And I says, I want to, we need somebody here that's going to make this really explode. So we got to have a concert. And the parking lot was gigantic. Okay. So my friend knew James Brown. So he was in the entertainment business. So I got a hold of James Brown and we were going to throw a James Brown concert. Meanwhile, I said, I want to invite President Reagan to the opening of the flea market. Everybody laughed at me. Okay. Even I laughed, but I gave it a shot anyway. So I contacted the White House. I sent a letter. 2 weeks later, I got a letter back. Then everybody jaw dropped. And they says, due to, and I have the letter in the book, by the way.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. Due to his scheduling, President Reagan can't come, but he's sending a representative. And they sent Carrie Meeks. At the time, I think she was representative for the state of Florida at the time. Then she became Senator Meeks. Anyway, they really check you out. So they checked all around of what I was doing. And my karate school actually was in Liberty City. So I taught a lot of the kids there. All right. And they went to the Martin Luther King Foundation. And they came on stage. And we had James Brown concert. 60,000 people showed up. Now, I got the videos to show it because nobody believes when I tell them stuff anyway. Nobody believes anybody anyway. And I think it's in the book. I don't know if I have some pictures in the book. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Anyway, they presented me with the Martin Luther King Award on stage in front of 60,000 people. You never know unless you knock on doors what's going to happen next. That's the lesson I want to get across to you.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. So then it was Christmas time, and they said, John, what do you want to do for Christmas to get people into the flea market? I said, I got a great idea. I said, I'm going to go up in a hot air balloon. We're going to have Santa Claus and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, okay? And we're going to throw flyers out over the city. So, no, you can't do that. We'll get tickets. I said, no, I don't think you understand. I want to throw your money out over the city. They said, what? I said, yeah. So we said, what do you mean? I said, well, here, look, I made a sticker, I put it on a dollar bill, and I turned the dollar bill into a flyer. So we went out and we threw all this money out 4 times. We got every radio station, every television station. Look to the sky, Santa Claus and Rudolph are throwing money out over the city.
And then you guys almost crashed, right?
Yeah, it cost us about $5,000 to do this. We got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of free publicity. And then I had my own circus. I did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to say the least. I mean, we don't even have time to really even scratch the surface of everything that you did. So, John, there is somebody listening right now that maybe he was in a situation like me where like they want to get better and they're doing just the traditional route. Like, what would you say? Like, what could that person do? What would you suggest to that person?
Okay, there's a couple of things you could do. First of all, you got to check to see what deficiencies you have in your body. That the micronutrient testing, gut testing. Okay. Then what you want to do, all right, is go to a therapist that does neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and a hypnotherapist. Those are the 4 things I would attack. And go from there. All right. And see where you're at. Now, what you want to do is look, if you're in a relationship, you have to communicate with your significant other. Okay. if it's causing you problems, you have to figure out why is it causing you problems. Okay, what are you doing that's causing you problems besides looking at porn? What kind of porn are you looking at too? You got to see where that's taking you. So you need a therapist to help you to figure out why you're attracted to that, and you'll see people in relation think they're deficient in the relationship, and sometimes it has nothing to do with that. Okay, a lot of people don't realize when you're in a relationship and a woman that gets, in her 40s and 50s, sometimes they lose their sex drive, and that could be because of low testosterone. And, they become dry and it becomes painful to have sex. So you have to look at that too for the wife. So there's a lot of things you need to go to people that really know what they're talking about. Not just regular people. Otherwise, regular therapists, they do regular therapy.
Yeah, exactly. And, we talked a little bit about EMDR in your last, on the podcast that I was on with you. And I benefited from EMDR. And the thing that I got certified in is the emotional freedom technique, or EFT, or tapping, which is, you could say, is a cousin of EMDR.
Yeah, they're using right and left hemisphere of the brain. And what I make it real simple. What it does is cause an electrical storm in the brain. Okay, to break that trauma is like a closed loop, and it keeps recirculating. See, so a lot of this stuff comes from trauma also. It comes from low self-esteem. It comes from a lot of different avenues. So you have to address people comprehensively, holistically. You have to use a wholeness approach. Okay? Sometimes things work. Sometimes they work for a little while. Sometimes they don't work. So you got to keep knocking on doors until somebody answers. And I always tell people, don't give up till the miracle happens, but you have to change the way you think. Okay? And you have to practice that, because you got an old tape running that tells you everything what you need to do, what not to do. And look at that tape and see what kind of success have you had with that, and what does it bring you to? Does it make you happy? Okay. If it doesn't, then you got to change it.
Yeah. John, could you tell us briefly, and I'm laughing because I've read your book, and hard to say this in a short amount of time, but turning $300 bucks to a $45 million empire. How'd you do that?
I don't know. Well, and even today, treatment hasn't changed in 70 years. We keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah.
There's only a 5 to 8 to 10% recovery rate.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not looking at all the things we talked about, a whole body approach,
right,
mind approach. We're using, I know cognitive therapy works really nice, but there's other therapies that work better.
Yes.
Okay. You see, I look at talk therapy deals with the software of the brain. Psychedelics, EMDR, NLP, they deal with the hard drive. It's the hard drive that drives the show, not the software. It's like on your computer. If you erase something on your computer, it's still on your hard drive. That's why when the FBI come to your house, they don't take the computer, they take the hard drive. Okay, because that's where all the information is.
Yeah.
And if before we forget, if people want to, know more about me and what I do, if they can go to John, the letter J, Giordano.com, and see what we're doing with this JC's Recovery Center that I have now. Yes. We get tremendous results. And how I turned $300 into $45 million is the same what I'm doing now. Okay, I took modalities that people weren't looking at. At my treatment center, G&G Holistic Addiction Treatment Program, okay, we started with 300. We had one employee, that was me. Then I got my partner, my friend, and I made him my partner, and he says to me, he goes, I wasn't a business person back then. I just loved doing the work. So he says to me, all right, let me see your books. I said, what books? I said, I don't have any books. He said, well, how do you know who pays you? They pay me. I put the money in my pocket. They pay me. He said, they're addicts. They're not going to pay you. Are you crazy? So I said, well, is that an observation or a statement? I said, bottom line is that he took over the business part. Then we had his son came in who knew about computers. And together, because it's always a team, it's not the John show. I'm just going to tell you that right now. It wasn't John that made this, 300 to 45 million. It was a team of us. And we each had our job. It was my ideas. I did the branding. Gerald did the marketing. Jerry did the business. Okay. So what happened was I brought in hyperbaric medicine. This was over 20 years ago. We tested the gut. We did nutrient testing. We did light and sound therapy. We did aromatherapy. We did acupuncture. We did lymphatic massage to get the drugs out of the body on a cellular level. We did colonics. We did aftercare for life. We did heavy metal testing. We detoxed people from heavy metals. We did hormone replacement because we found 85% of our clients had low testosterone. So we did things that nobody was doing. And then I was involved with Dr. Mash, and we used to take the Ibogaine clients back to my clinic. And we had a 62-bed, eventually, inpatient facility. We winded up with 7 buildings, 147 employees. Wow. How that happened, God was involved because I have no clue. We just kept doing the work. We didn't chase the money. We chased recovery. And if you focus on helping people and focus on your business, of course, you have to have a balance, okay? But we were more about helping people than more about the money, okay? Unfortunately, some of these places today, it's all about the money. It's not about the client, and I'm not for that. The people that I get involved with at JC's Recovery Center, they're for the people. But they're too much on that side. They give too much. And they can go out of business the way they were doing things. So I had to bring them back, okay? We were paying for food. We were paying for housing. And you get $110 a day. I mean, it doesn't work out very well. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, that's how I grew it. Everybody used to laugh at me. Go to Giordano, we'll give you a vitamin and he'll cure you. That's not what I was saying. We were a 12-step program. We had a faith-based track. I always train my staff. I send them all to go get EMDR training. And then I redeveloped the EMDR. I call it TRT, Trauma Release Technique. I added NLP. I added hypnotherapy and holotropic breathing to the EMDR. And I believe in combining things that support each other. Mm-hmm. And it works a lot better than the regular EMDR.
Yeah. John, one of the things that I hear you saying about taking the $300 to 45 million is that you didn't do it alone, and that you reached out and you asked for help from many other people.
Yeah, you got to know where you begin and where you end. Now, I learned the business part, not willing, I'll be honest with you. I didn't like that part. I just like doing groups and individual and designing the program. And my friend Jerry, unfortunately, he got cancer in his throat, and then he got cancer in his kidney. Then he got a stroke, and he was gone for 4.5 years before we sold. And what had happened was I was forced to take his position also. So I was running the whole treatment center, okay, doing all the branding, doing all the lecturing, doing all the other stuff, plus the business part. Very difficult. But I had a good team of employees that helped tremendously. Mm-hmm. So Gerald did the marketing with the internet. That was his job. So, my partner Gerald wanted to sell. I didn't want to sell, but that's what we did. So we had an offer for $21 million. Now we were taking in 36 to 40 million a year in revenue. And I said, no. And then one of our guys that worked for us said, listen, I have somebody that's interested. I says, okay. So I said, tell him I want 45 million. Don't bother calling me. But he called me. And long story short, we got 45 million.
Wow.
But we actually sold to the wrong guy. We didn't realize he closed the place in 3 years.
Oh.
We didn't. He showed one face and was another face. In other words, I wouldn't have gave my baby to somebody who wasn't the right person. But that's what wound up happening. And anyway, he destroyed the whole company. He cut the staff in half. Were we overstaffed? Yeah, we had a little bit overstaffed, but we wanted to do good treatment. So we made a little less money. I mean, how much money do you want to make? We were making tons of money. Okay. Yeah. And me, I was always broke and homeless. I was homeless when I started my journey after recovery.
Wow.
When I started my recovery, I had nothing. My wife, I got divorced. She got the house, she got the car, got the kids, and I didn't have anything. So that was my beginning of my journey in recovery. And when you read the book, so you know what happened to me and all this stuff. So that's life.
The kid from the South Bronx who ended up homeless and then ultimately building a $45 million recovery center. Absolutely extraordinary. And John is just, like I said, John is just scratching the surface with the many, just all the different things he's done. And I love, well, let me ask you this. We just a minute left. What's some last words of wisdom? John, you're going to be turning 78 years old. You've done extraordinary things in your life, coming from being the kid from the South Bronx, being homeless. What is some last words of wisdom you could say to someone that is really struggling with sex, porn addiction, or any type of addiction?
Never give up. Get off your ass and go get help. Sorry for the ass part, but that's what it is. Okay? That's the bottom line. Stop crying about what you can't do and look at what you can do. And that's just it. Too many people give up on life. God gave you the gift of life, whatever God is to you. It's what you do with that life is your gift back to that creator. So stop crying. Stop feeling sad for yourself. Get up. Go do the job. If you fall down, get your butt back up and keep going. It's okay. If you fall down, you fall down. Just get up.
Just like Rocky Balboa.
That's
Get back up. So anyway, I've got on the bottom of the screen John's website, johngiordano.com. It will be in the show notes as well. Be sure to check out his website and definitely get his book, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Would Never Give Up. Extraordinary story. And I will close with this. That's a quote from Zig Ziglar, who says, "You are designed for accomplishment. You are engineered for success, and you are endowed with the seeds of greatness."
Thanks for listening. If you're struggling with porn or sex addiction, reach out to Eric at powerfuleric.com.